from the Anderson Speedway. It's the 57th annual Payless Remy International Little 500 Sprint Car Race. Everybody, Gary Lee alongside Larry Rice and Dave Argabright in the pits. Earlier today, the introductions of the drivers. There's Dave Steele, a former winner here at Anderson. And on the pole earlier being introduced is Tom Fedowa. His dad, Gary, also a former pole winner here at Anderson. That's the first time for this racetrack, and they all had a chance to parade around the racetrack to a near standing room only crowd.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is the race format. 2 mandatory pit stops, one before the halfway mark of 250 laps and one after the halfway mark. So you must make those pit stops. Also, this is a quarter-mile racetrack, 17-degree banking, a very fast racetrack. With 33 cars on here, it's going to be very full all night long.
We have 9 rookies in the race and 3 former winners. And look at that, number 69, that is a rookie. That is Tracy Hines. He is 13th on the all-time USAC win list. He's a former Sprint Car and Silver Crown champ, but a rookie in this race. What a great standing room only crowd.
A terrific crowd. There's always a terrific crowd here. This racetrack and this race are so unique. It's the only one in the United States like this. They have their own Hall of Fame. They have their own format. They have their own ceremonies. It's very unique.
Well, speaking of the Hall of Fame, we congratulate our colleague Dave Argabright on his induction in the Little 500 Hall of Fame just last week. So 33 sprint cars for 500 laps. Traffic is going to be a bear throughout this race as we'll take a look at the starting lineup. As we mentioned, Tom Fedowa has that pole position. Dave Steele, a former winner in the middle, and outside Tim Barber. In the second row, it's Jeff Bloom, a former winner. Tony Hunt, who was third last year, and Dorn Snyder. Then Levi Jones, Brian Tyler, and Eric Gordon. In the fourth row, Tracy Hines, Jimmy McCune, and Jason McCord. Matt Neely, Jonathan Bennett, and Danny Holsclaw in row 5. In the sixth row, it's Aaron Pierce, Tony Elliott, and Ryan Litt. As we move on through the rest of the field, in the seventh row, on the inside, Jason Blond, Brad Armstrong, and Paul White. Paul, a former Silver Crown champion. In the eighth row, Tim Cox, Donnie Adams, and Dave Durnwald. Sandy Eden inside row 9, who was last year's Speed Rome USAC champion. Troy Underwood and Shane Butler. The last 2 rows, Shauna Hogue out of California, Mike Ling, Michael Tartan, and the 11th row, Chris Hayes, Mark Hall, and Ron Kohler.
Well, these are very unique race cars. Look at that race car Tom Fedowa was driving. It's not the same as you normally would see at a USAC race. Some of these cars are built specifically for this race. The rules aren't quite the same as they are with most organizations, so you can build a special car for this race, and some of these guys do that.
Keep an eye on the outside third row starting position. Eric Gordon in the Jack French car has won this race 4 times in a row, and they bring that car out once a year, and then they win the race and park it.
Yeah, it's like their ATM machine. They make all that money and take her home and save her again for next year. Because
over $30,000 to the winner of this race here this evening.
Exactly, and he's won it several times.
4 times in a row, and 5 times overall as Dave Steele grabs the lead from the middle of the front row. So Dave Steele, who won this race back in 1996 from Tampa, Florida, out in front. Fedowa rides in second, and in third is Tim Barber.
And you can see the guys up front have very quickly moved into single file. The guys back in the back are still trying to sort themselves out. But the first couple of rows have fallen into single file and just trying to get into a rhythm here. They're going to run into lap traffic, though, because when you get cars single file, you're in lap traffic right away.
And keep in mind, the groove on this racetrack is going to change because with 33 sprint cars and 500 laps, they're going to lay down a whole lot of rubber.
Well, they certainly are, and as the race goes on and they get in the lap traffic, they're going to have to run the high side, so it'll get wider too. I mean, the groove will get wider because they've got a lot more rubber on the outside. Oh, somebody lost something, ran across the racetrack right there.
Well, Dave Steele, who has tasted victory here, and he's tasted bitter defeat back in 2000. He was leading this race with 5 laps to go and ran out of fuel. Wayne Hammond took the victory that year.
Well, luck has a lot to do. You got to be fast, but you have to have a little luck as well, because there are going to be some crashes during this event, and you have to be able to miss every one of them.
But not only that, you have to be proficient in the pit area. There are 2 mandatory pit stops.
That's right. When you go into the pit area, you've got to be prepared. A lot of these guys do a lot more preparation than others. Is already there in lap traffic. That looks like Sandy Eden.
Sandy Eden was the first lady ever to win a USAC title. That happened last year at the Indianapolis Speed Rome in the Speed Rome Regional Midget Series. Sandy has been racing wing sprint cars, but is one of 2 ladies in this race. In fact, Both are rookies, Shauna Hogue out of California and Sandy Eden.
And you can see right now that Steele and Fido are coming up on a lot of lap traffic. So right now is when things start getting a little tense. The guys in the back obviously aren't as fast, and so you got to be careful.
Look at Jason McCord there, the white number 4. He has won here at this racetrack, just not in this race, but always a favorite on this racetrack.
Well, he certainly is. He's this is his home track. He lives right here. He always tries to win this race. Works at it very hard, but so far, he's deep in the pack, trying to work his way through.
That's McCune in 19, Armstrong in 16.
These guys all in single file, just trying to work their way back up.
A glimpse of Tony Elliott there in the 66 car. And once again, you talk about a rhythm. You have raced in this event, you've led this event, and you talk about how important it is for a driver to establish a rhythm. With all this traffic and changing the groove, you have to have a rhythm.
Well, you certainly do. I mean, it's all about getting comfortable. I mean, you can wear yourself out. I mean, physically wear yourself out on this racetrack because you're under a lot of pressure G-force wise with the banking on this racetrack. So you've got to get yourself in a rhythm. You've got to be comfortable in the race car, and you got to be able to pick your spots. You got to be aggressive, but you have to be somewhat patient as well.
That is Sandy Eden actually in the yellow 15 car that they're about to put a lap down right now.
And that's Steele on the outside trying to get around her.
And Shane Butler will be about the next to be lapped. So once again, we've only gone a few laps. We're already in heavy traffic. Fido took a look to the inside as Steele was looking for a way around Sandy on the high side. Look at Fido. He sticks his nose down low, trying to make it too wide.
Yeah, he certainly does. And Steele runs that outside and is running very well up there. He's, as we said, that groove is going to move up. And when they run that outside groove, more rubber that gets on out there, the better they'll be able to run it.
See a lot of sparks because they've got a full fuel load, so a lot of weight in those race cars.
Yeah, they've got several gallons of fuel in there. That fuel weighs 7 pounds per gallon, so they've got an extra, I don't know, probably 80 pounds or 100 pounds out there that they're carrying around right now.
The top 3 are nose to tail on the racetrack. There he pulls to the side of Sandy, tries that outside pass and makes it work going down the backstretch.
Well, he's slowly but surely moving through, but
there is the 18 of Shane Butler.
Boy, he did a nice job right there. Butler stayed right on the very bottom, and that's what you have to do when you're lap traffic, when you're being lapped. As long as you don't have to slow down, you don't have to get out of the way. All you have to do is give them room coming off the corner. That's the real dangerous place on this racetrack. If you're on the bottom and you're lapping somebody, you can go by them in the middle of the corner, plenty of room, but when you come off the corner, if he drifts too wide, he can pinch you into that wall, and that's where the real danger is.
Chris Hayes was about to be lapped in the number 11 car right there. In fact, Chris had a good ride last year in this race and finished 7th, but he was relegated to the back of the pack for the start of this race. He started back in the last row.
It looked like Kohler slowing down on the inside, so he must be experiencing some problems, but Dave Steele still working his way around. Everybody is kind of in line right here as Barber is right behind Fido with those first 3 cars nose to tail.
Now these guys are equipped with radios in the helmet, but how can you possibly listen to a spotter with all the stuff that you're focusing on out there on the racetrack?
Well, you know, you have to listen to them because they can tell you what's going on. Oh, Fido almost drilled. There was a yellow car spun up there. That looks like
Brad Armstrong in number 16.
Wow.
So on lap 28, the yellow flies, and that almost caught the leader.
Boy, it certainly
did. The leader
did.
get on the brakes real hard there, and he almost got involved in that one.
Well, Steele jumped on the brakes, and Fido wasn't quite ready for it and almost drilled him. He could have spun Steele very easily right there, and that's what I'm talking about is luck. You know, you got to have it.
Brad Armstrong, who's recognized as a pavement specialist. We'll take a look again as he brings out the yellow flag, the first of, I'm sure, many yellows here this evening on lap 28. Let's take a replay, Larry.
Okay, so he's just going through the corner.
Yeah,
he just got
2 tires. Oh, boy, he hit that wall super hard. He got into somebody else, spun him around, and really slapped that wall. And your top 5 after 29 laps is Steele leads Fido, Barber, Hunt, and Gordon. Welcome back to the 57th annual Payless Remy International Little 500 from Anderson Speedway. Gary Lee, Larry Rice, and Dave Argabright as we're watching Dave Steele from Tampa, Florida, set the pace. He started in the middle of the front row, took the lead at the starting green, and continues to knife his way through traffic. Shauna Hogue, the young lady from California, one of two ladies in this evening's race, about to go a lap down. But Larry Rice, a lap down at this juncture doesn't mean a whole lot because there's a whole lot of racing to go.
No, you don't want to get a lap down, but if you're only one lap down at this point, that's not too bad. You need to wait on that first pit stop, maybe make some adjustments, though, because you're going to have to run faster than you're running right now if you want to beat a guy like Dave Steele.
And realistically, how many adjustments can be made during a pit stop?
Well, not a lot, but you can make some. Look at Gordon on the outside. That's Barber right in front of him, and Fidoa right in front of Barber. So Gordon, as you would expect, on the move here early. This guy's a master of this place, and Fidoa having some trouble. He's holding up the pack.
Yeah, and he's going to go by 2 positions right there. So Gordon goes to second. Fidoa drops to third. Barber's fourth.
Gordon he makes that classic move every year. He does something like that. He waits, he's patient, he doesn't get in a hurry, but when the opportunity presents itself, he takes advantage. He went right to the outside. Fidoa has really lost the handling somehow.
Well, Eric Gordon is a 3-time USAC Sprint Car runner-up in 1989, 90, and 91. A Silver Crown runner-up. He's yet to win a USAC title, but he's won 6 of these races. So how many of these races you think he'd trade in for a USAC championship?
Well, I don't know, but I'm sure he wants to make it number 7. He's all over Dave Steele right now. As Eric Gordon, definitely the fastest car on the racetrack. I think, whoa, look at this. Everybody's in
jammed up
heavy lap traffic. Wow. You can see Steele, look at this. He tries to go to the inside, can't quite do it.
This is the first time he's been pressured since we started this race.
Well, it is, and they're in a very, very heavy lap traffic. That's the problem. Those 2 guys in front of him are running side by side and giving him no place to go. He goes to the bottom, and he's behind the slower car.
That is Holzclaw, number 3, and Troy Underwood in 41, the orange car. In 41, he then yields. It's like, let me get the heck out of the way here and let these guys go.
That's exactly what he did. He slowed down, pulled down, clear down to the inside as he.
And the second yellow, 2 cars involved. The second yellow of the afternoon, Mike Ling in 55 and Chris Hayes in 11.
Well, it looks
you can see the damage to the right front of the 55 car of Ling.
Yeah, he's looks like he's got some damage there that he'll probably have to go in and get some work done. Both of them had contact, and there's Chris Hayes up against the wall. They're both going to have to go to the pits probably and get some something done to the race cars. Can't tell whether that right front is flat on Hayes' car or not, but doesn't appear there's any flat there on Mike Ling's car.
Chris Hayes finished 7th last season, so he'll not have a top 10 finish here, depending on how long he spends in the pit lane. Under yellow, Steele leads Gordon, Fidoa, Barber, and Snyder. So for the first time this evening, Steele has felt some pressure from behind that number 91 sprint car.
Yeah, and those guys.
We thought I'd called some damage in the right front. Just the way the right front was cocked. Apparently there's not damage in the right front of the number 55 Ling machine.
Well, it looks like he might get restarted.
So once again, Dave Steele has led this thing all 58 laps. Gordon now is up to second. Fidoa, who started for the pole position, is third. Then Barber and Snyder. It looks like right now maybe a great race between Steele and Gordon here this evening.
Gordon started back in 9th spot and has very quickly moved his way up to the front of the pack. Again, he and Jack French, who owns that car, really have this place figured out.
Okay, back under green. Now, before this yellow came out, there was a lot of pressure on the rear of that number 91 car of Steele. And once again, Gordon applies the pressure, looks to the inside.
Yeah, he's trying that move. Go high, use that banking to get a run down the straightaway. Doesn't look like he's going to try to pass on the outside. He tries to diamond off of the corner, return it sharply left, coming off the corner. Use that banking, a 17-degree banking, to shoot him down the front or the straightaway and go by. So far, he hasn't been able to make that work.
And look at the gap back to 3rd position, Larry. Look how big that gap has opened up over the last 3 laps after the green.
They're just pulling away. Remember, these guys do not have mirrors in these cars, so Dave Steele cannot see him unless he's up there far enough that he can see the front of his car. So if you stick your nose underneath him going into the corner, you better make darn sure he sees you, or he's going to chop off your nose, and he could spin both of you out. So
and already they're approaching the back of the pack. So this battle for the lead will go into heavy traffic. You see Ling there has restarted in the red 55 machine. he'll be the next to be lapped.
And it's usually the person who is the best in traffic that wins this race. That's the reason Eric Gordon, one of the reasons that he's been so good here. He's been very aggressive, but very patient. Right there, he goes to the inside. Look at Steele. He thinks about going 3 wide, but I think Eric Gordon is going to win because the inside row sees...
Oh, and Eric Gordon smokes his tires hard on the brakes.
Wow, he was trying to get down under Mark Hall there in that 02 car. Almost ran into the back of his. Hall slowed way down. And that's what we're talking about. You got to be fast, you got to be aggressive, but you got to be patient too. Right there, a little lack of patience could have cost him.
Well, they get by Ling and Hayes, and now it's Gordon leading, and Steele is the pursuer.
And Steele, now that he's in second place, looks to be a little faster than Gordon. Now, you know, it's no time to be racing each other for the lead. Quite honestly, there's a long way to go in this race.
Watch this. A couple of laps ago, watch him smoke his tires into turn 1. Well, watch this move down the inside.
Well, you can see he got in there, just had to get on the brakes a ton to keep him running over Hall in front of him. And if he hadn't done that, he could have spun both of them out.
Been a big wreck right there.
Big wreck, that's right.
Once again, Chris Hayes is that red and white number 11 car out in front of your 2 leaders. Look at that, a straightaway advantage back to third. So let's see if that advantage goes away once they work their way through traffic.
Well, I started to say Steele was content to run behind him, but he certainly isn't, as he went to the outside the first opportunity he got.
We've known Steele for how many years? He's not content to ride behind anybody.
And I don't really understand that, because at this point in the race, all you have to do is you just have to be able to see the guys up front, because there's a long way to go. You don't have to be the lead. There's, you know, it's not like they're paying big money to lead every lap. I know as a racer you want to lead, but you don't have to lead at this point.
But realistically, how difficult is it for a guy like Steele, who's driven fairly short races all of his career, to detune a bit?
Oh, look at this. Again, he got very high and hard on the brakes up there on the high side.
Again in the white number 3.
Wow. Eric Gordon using those front brakes. You can tell he has a lot of front brake dialed in, because the front wheels are smoking, the back wheels aren't. The reason you do that, because if you've got more brakes on the back than you do on the front, and you brake like that, the car's going to spin out. If the back wheel slide, it just turns you around. So you want to have a lot more front brake than back brake, because then you can do what he just did, stop without spinning the car.
The Holtz clause at number 3, the 19 is Jimmy McCune.
Well, there's lots of heavy traffic right in front of these guys. And so far, they've both handled it very well.
41 of Troy Underwood now goes 2 laps down in that orange number 41. There's Snyder and Hines. That is the battle for 5th position.
So far, Hines doing a nice job as he's just kind of hanging in there, moving up slowly but surely. If you've never run this race before, you're not exactly sure how aggressive to be or how patient to be. You have to pace yourself, but you have to be aggressive at the same time. And I think Hines right now is just trying to figure that out. Again, he's one of these guys who has never run a 500-lap race.
Well, Hines driving the number 69 car for the Hoffman family, who's the winningest car owners in USAC sprint car history.
Right. Both Dave Steele and Eric Gordon have done this a lot of times, and you can see right now, both of them up front. Eric Gordon in that white and red number 2 car, slicing his way through the lap traffic. Dave Steele following him through, looking for an opportunity to maybe get around if Eric Gordon goes the wrong way, if he zigs instead of zags.
We talk about what luck plays in racing and how a race can be won or lost in the pit area. All those old cliches certainly apply when you're racing 500 laps with 33 sprint cars.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, it's not only how good you are and how patient you are on the racetrack, but if your pit crew messes up in there just a little bit, it can cost you a couple of laps on the racetrack, and 2 laps is very difficult to make up.
Coming up on Donnie Adams into turn 3. There's the 61 car of Jason Blonde. We saw Jason in competition at that 50-lap Cincinnati Chevy dealers race here at Anderson.
Yeah, very, very heavy traffic right now as these guys trying to get through all this. Sandy Eden in that yellow car again being lapped. So some of these cars have been lapped a couple of times already here in the early going.
We talk about physically demanding, mentally demanding. What is this race?
Well,
Both?
it's both, actually. I mean, it's very mentally demanding because of the traffic. You have to be on top of the game 100% of the time. One bad move in 500 laps. 500 laps, that's 1,000 corners you have to make, 1,000 left-hand corners, and you got to make every one of them right. If you run into somebody, because you got to brake 1,000 times, you've got to go into that corner 1,000 times, and if you're in a big, heavy traffic and if you mess up just one time, it could be a big mistake and could cost you the race.
Donnie Adams is the jam car right now. They're trying to get around Donnie, and your leader does so in turn 1.
Yeah, at least he's up beside.
He's alongside of him.
And see, Donnie Adams giving him room. That's the important thing. That lap traffic, they give you room on the outside coming up. If they slide real wide and pinch you into the fence out there, it can end your day in a real hurry.
High, low, what's your dip and dive?
Yeah, dip and dive, slip and slide. That's what you have to do here. You've got to do it all, because sometimes you've got to go inside, sometimes you got to go outside, and you got to have your car handling both places. If you're only handling on the bottom of the racetrack in a race like this, you're in big trouble, because you're not going to pass anybody.
They'll be coming up on Ron Kohler.
That's Ryan Litt right in front of our leaders now in the 07. So those guys coming up on him, trying to get around Ryan Litt. Paul White in the red number 62 right in front of them. So very heavy traffic. Paul White from Texas is a guy who normally runs dirt. He's a real dirt specialist, but he's been running Silver Crown cars in USAC the last couple of years, and has become pretty good on the pavement.
Troy Underwood goes another lap down in that orange number 41. They're still tucked in.
Ryan Litt finally goes to the bottom and gets out of the way, so they get around him. Now then, Paul White is next on the list.
They're running side by side down the front straightaway. Jason McCord in the Hat World entry, and McCord yields, and they go by the low side.
Not very often that you're going to see Jason McCord get lapped in any kind of an event.
There's lap 100. And so one and a yellow. Our third yellow of the evening right at lap 100. And there's a car that has spun. Oh, it's Tracy Hines in number 69.
And that is not a car that's going to get restarted. The front axle on that thing is completely bent and broken. He's hit the wall pretty hard. And oh, man. I don't know who's in that yellow car, but he's not happy with them. That'll cost him the steering wheel's gone. Wow.
Tracy Hines brings out our third yellow of the evening, and that car, the Hoffman entry, out of competition. They'll not fix that one as we go to break. There's the top 5 after 101 laps here at Anderson. Welcome back to the Anderson Speedway, the third yellow of the evening. There is Tracy Hines, very, very unhappy as he's taken out of his very first little 500. Racing is a sport of passion, and no one is more passionate than this driver right here.
Now let's take a look at his frustration. You can see him, he's got the steering wheel, and there he goes. That's
Dorman Snyder was the target, and he hit him. There's our new Olympic sport.
Our new Olympic event, steering wheel toss. What a deal.
Dorman Snyder was the recipient of that hurl, as Tracy very, very unhappy, cooling off. And as you say, he's a very passionate driver, and right now he is just fuming.
Yeah, he is fuming. He will have a talk with Mr. Snyder when this is over, I can guarantee you.
And the USAC officials may have a talk with both of them.
Well, that's right. You know, when that happens, something like that happens, and you're racing with somebody and you end up in the wall, you're always going to think it's his fault about 90% of the time.
Of course, Tracy's been running a lot of NASCAR events. If he threw the steering wheel in NASCAR, he'd go to the trailer.
Yep, go to the trailer there, and it costs you money usually.
All right, lap 112. We're back to racing under green. There is your leader, Eric Gordon. Dave Steele rides in second. Both former winners, but no one has a track record quite like Eric Gordon here.
No, they certainly don't. I mean, Steele, as you said, he's won, and he's been close to winning several other times, but you know, luck hasn't been on his side. And you know, Eric Gordon has been very good, but he's had some awfully good luck too. I mean, last year he could have been in a couple of crashes. I remember he was very close to crashing at least 2 or 3 times and avoided all of them somehow, and went on to win the race.
Well, right now, these two guys really, Larry, the class of the field, because look how much they pull away from everybody else once we go back to green.
And I think a lot of that is experience. They've run more races here than I think most of the other drivers. They know how to set the race cars up. They know what it's going to do after a few laps, and when the rubber gets down, there's so many cars out there.
Well, right now they're coming up